The conference room felt like a stage built for my humiliation. I sat across from Tom Brennan, our marketing director, watching him flip through the presentation deck I'd spent 3 months perfecting. The slides glowed on the screen behind him, my research, my strategy, my late nights condensed into 47 pages of brilliance. He cleared his throat and the room fell silent. "This campaign concept is solid," he said, nodding slowly. Then his eyes found mine. "But Mia, you're just not aggressive enough to lead a team through execution." The words hit me like a slap. Around the table, 5 executives shifted uncomfortably. Nobody spoke. Nobody defended me. Tom smiled that practiced empty smile and continued presenting my work as though he'd birthed it himself. My hands trembled in my lap. I forced them still. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me break, but inside something fundamental shifted. That was the moment I decided Tom Brennan would lose everything, and I would take his seat. My name is Mia Keller. I'm 29 years old and I've worked at Brennan Marketing Solutions for 6 years. I started as a junior analyst, the kind of role where you're invisible unless you mess up. I didn't mess up, ever. I worked weekends. I volunteered for the projects nobody wanted. I learned every software, every client preference, every tiny detail that separated good campaigns from legendary ones. By year 3, I was running million-dollar accounts. By year 5, I doubled our client retention rate. Everyone knew I did the heavy lifting. Tom knew it too. That's exactly why he kept me close enough to steal from, far enough to deny credit. He was the face, I was the brain. And for 6 years I told myself that was enough. I told myself quiet competence would eventually be rewarded. I was wrong. Professionalism doesn't protect you from people who have none. The morning after that meeting, I opened my email to find a message from Tom. The subject line read, "Performance Review Follow-up." My stomach dropped. I clicked it open. The body was 3 sentences long. "After reviewing your contributions this quarter, leadership has determined you need further development in assertiveness and executive presence before being considered for management. We appreciate your technical skills. Let's reconnect in 6 months. No signature. No acknowledgement of the campaign I just handed him, just a corporate rejection wrapped in polite poison. I stared at the screen, vision blurring. Around me, the office buzzed with congratulations. People stopped by Tom's desk, shaking his hand, praising his brilliance. He soaked it in, laughing loudly, playing the humble genius. I closed my laptop, took 3 deep breaths, then I opened a new folder on my personal drive and titled it, Evidence. I didn't cry that day. I didn't rage or confront him or send an emotional reply. Instead, I went home, made tea, and sat at my kitchen table with a notebook. I wrote down every instance I could remember, every idea he'd claimed, every meeting where he'd spoken over me, every client win he'd rebranded as his own vision. The list filled 4 pages. Then I started a new document, a timeline. Dates, emails, file versions, witnesses. I wasn't planning revenge. I was building a case. Because I realized something that night. Tom wasn't just arrogant, he was sloppy. He relied on charm and volume to cover his incompetence. And sloppy people leave trails. I just had to follow them. So I made a decision. I would not quit. I would not complain. I would simply become indispensable to everyone except him. 2 days later, Tom invited me to lunch. "Let's debrief," he said casually, as though he hadn't just crushed my career. We sat at an expensive bistro downtown, the kind of place he loved because it made him feel important. He ordered wine at noon, I ordered water. "You're talented, Mia," he said, cutting into his steak. "But leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about presence, confidence. People need to feel your authority." I nodded, keeping my face neutral. "I understand. You're too polite," he continued, "too accommodating. Clients want someone who takes charge. You see what I mean?" I saw exactly what he meant. He wanted me submissive, useful, grateful. "I'll work on that," I said softly. He grinned, raising his glass. "That's the spirit." When the bill came, he made a show of paying, waving off my wallet. "I've got this, kiddo," I smiled, thanked him, and memorized every word he'd said. The following week, I started something small. Tom had a habit of ignoring the junior staff, interns, assistants, anyone he deemed unimportant. So I began stopping by their desks. I answered their questions. I reviewed their work. I taught them shortcuts Tom would never bother explaining. At first they were surprised, then grateful, then loyal. When Tom was in meetings, which usually meant golfing or networking at expensive bars, they started coming to me. "Mia, can you approve this?" "Mia, the client's asking about deadlines." "Mia," Tom didn't respond. "What should I do?" I never badmouthed him. I just helped, quietly, efficiently. And slowly, without anyone noticing, I became the person the team actually relied on. Tom thought he was the sun. He didn't realize I was becoming the gravity. 3 weeks later, a client called in a panic. A major report was missing, one that was supposed to be delivered 2 days earlier. Tom immediately threw me under the bus. Mia was handling that file, he told the client on speakerphone, his tone dripping with disappointment. I'll follow up with her and get answers. Except I had the email chain. Every version of the report, time-stamped, approved by Tom himself. I waited until he hung up. Then I forwarded the entire thread to our operations lead, Claire Donovan, with a single line, clarifying timeline per Tom's concern. An hour later, Tom was called into Claire's office. He emerged 20 minutes later, pale and tight-lipped. He avoided eye contact with me for the rest of the day. I acted surprised when people asked what happened. But inside, I felt something click into place. He could be beaten. I just had to be patient.